Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology. What's that? That's the study of books and reading and notebooks and writing mixed with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. Here, you'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how they can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebooking prompts around particular themes, and you'll even hear from authors and special guests who can fuel our reading and writing hearts and help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, and I'm here with what might be considered a part 2 to an earlier episode. Back in episode 172, I talked about creating a themed reading calendar to spark your reading life all year long. In it, I shared my most favorite thing to do every month, and that is to choose a new one-word theme for myself and create a bibliotherapy book calendar with a book recommendation every day of the month that could help me bring that theme to life. That is my own personal book calendar, and of course, I share it with my community. In that episode, I asked you if you would like to create a themed reading calendar for yourself, and I gave you the steps on how to do that. To think about the time of the year and the season you are in, how to choose those one-word themes, how to create an artist date for yourself, and to go out and find books that are going to help you grow into that particular season. You loved that episode. I loved hearing about your comments. And what I was even happier was that some of you reached out and said, I definitely want the writing companion to that episode. And so that's here we are. So if you haven't listened to episode 172 yet, I highly recommend you pause this, go back and listen, because I think you'll see some connections between the process I talk about there to the process that I'm going to talk about today, although there are a few differences. Now, we are going to take a deep dive into the different kinds of writing we could do, the different themes we could write in response to, and a couple of things to consider when creating your own calendar. If you want to go deeper into the different kinds of writing and the different places in the calendar you might put them, I recommend that you go back to episode 130. That is where I took a deeper dive into the 5 kinds of notebooking, the 5 kinds of writing. I will mention them here, but if you want to nerd out with me and really get the nitty-gritty on what they are and how they help you in your actual life, then episode 130 is for you. But now, let's move on to creating a year-long writing calendar. Now, from my experience, both as a person who is a notebooker and working with people who want to become notebookers, it seems like creating a writing habit is a bit trickier than creating a reading habit. Reading is something that is seen as, I'm putting in air quotes, easier because you pick up a book of someone else's words and you simply read it, listen to it, enjoy it, soak it in. Choosing themes for our reading life feels easier for some because the books are already there. We're not producing, we're not writing, we're not creating, we're receiving. And that is true, but reading is certainly an active process. But what I want to share today is that by being very intentional about the kinds of writing you want to do and what you want to get out of your writing life, you can make showing up to the page of your notebook just as easy as it is showing up to the page of your book. So let's think about this. if we have a year stretched out in front of us, and just like the reading episode, I purposely did not do this at the beginning of the year because at any time you can start to create an intentional writing plan from this moment forward. And that's what I urge us to do today. So let's think about the calendar in a couple of sections. We're going to do this a bit differently than the reading episode. In the reading episode, I encouraged you to brainstorm what your personal themes would be, to then set an artist date with yourself to go to the library or the bookstore or do some online shopping to get your books, and then to carve out some beautiful rituals for your reading life. Today for writing, I want to scaffold it a bit more for you. I want to give you a bit more guidance, a few more suggestions, invite you to a couple more possibilities so that it might not seem as overwhelming as it could be. So, that said, let's jump into the beginning of the year. Let's say it is January and February. And this is where you could tie your writing life to your reading life and the themes you might have there. But typically in January and February, we are all about the fresh start. It is a brand new year. It is a big shift for many people who set intentions, who set goals, who even do resolutions. And so we're all about renewal and starting over. So for January and February, I recommend that you dive into productive writing. Right? So I said there were 5 different kinds of writing, and productive is one of them. It's the kind of writing that helps you get stuff done. Maybe it is a notebook full of to-do lists. It could be a journal where you are dreaming out what you want in the coming year and setting your goals and resolutions. So if we're in the beginning of the year and we're starting with a fresh start and we want to be productive, there are 3 kinds of writing that I recommend at this point of the year to try. Number 1 is a morning page notebook. Now, a morning page notebook is exactly what it sounds like. And there are other episodes on the podcast if you want to take a deeper dive into it. But that is simply waking up in the morning and putting pen to paper to think about what's on your mind, what's on your heart, where do you want to go, how do you want to feel. It is a stream of consciousness writing that just helps you set intention to your day. I also recommend, if this is a new practice for you, trying a Start Today journal. A Start Today journal is from Rachel Hollis, and it's a very specific kind of writing where you think about the dreams that you have, and every morning you start with gratitude for the day before. You list your dreams and feel them in your soul so that you want to bring them to life, and then you end with an action step for the day to set you up for success. You don't need a special journal, although she used to produce them, and I just tend to do this in a regular old journal. Now, you might also try some manifesting writing or writing to raise your vibration, right? This may be affirmations for the coming year. It may be listing those dreams in a different, more creative way. It might be visualizing where you are in the future and actually writing it down as if it happened. All of those methods train your brain to believe what you are writing down, to feel what you are writing down. And so if in this January, February time, we are really relying on this productive kind of writing to set us up from the start, imagine what we could accomplish in that year. So January, February, productive writing, think morning pages, think Start Today, think manifesting writing of some kind. Now let's move into March, April, May. Now, here in upstate New York, the weather is still very up in the air. In fact, the time of recording, we just had snow just a couple of days ago. And yes, this is April. But March, April, May, this is moving from winter into spring. We're thinking of renewal. We're thinking of growth. We're thinking a little bit more deeply, right? And maybe our resolutions and our intentions, we're still working on them strong. Maybe we realize we need to change gears and we just need to do some thinking of where we want to go. So I recommend at this point of the calendar that you try responsive writing. This is the kind of writing that you do in response to something else, in response to your reading, in response to a beautiful quotation, in response to something you saw on social media, in response to a movie you watched, in response to something that happened in your world. It's basically writing that is prompted by something else. And I love it for this time of year because you can strategically read and surround yourself with media that will help you grow into the version you want to be, right? That is the whole theme of that reading calendar. But I especially love it for this time of the year as we are starting to move into that spring renewal season. So something you might try is a reading response notebook or just some reading responses. Challenge yourself to wake up in the morning and read something inspirational, read a piece of poetry, and write about how it makes you feel. Have a quote collection and start a quote notebook and write those beautiful, thought provoking quotes at the top and figure out what message it's trying to send you, why that quote came into your vision, into your life, and what it needs to show you. And I also recommend that you keep going with those morning pages and you just reflect on the things that are coming up in your days, right? Try some of the prompts that Julia Cameron offers, right? Start a day with a sentence. Today is going to be a good day, and here is how I know it. And then think about those signs that you've been getting. So responsive writing can be anything as long as it's prompted by something. And for that kind of sloggy time of year, as we wait for spring to come, I find it very helpful to prompt myself with something inspirational so that I can get to the other side in spring, knowing summer is on the way. Let's move in to June, July, and August. That is pretty much summertime for most of us. Many of us are looking for adventure. We're looking for play. We're looking to have a little bit more creativity or newness or something in our lives to get us outdoors or outside of the box. And so June, July, and August for your writing calendar, you might slot in some time for some creative writing. And now you can get as big or as little as you want here. Getting creative in your notebook might just be writing in a different colored pen or getting out highlighters and stickers and washi tape and marking up the same old writing that you always do. But giving it a little twist gives you a little bit of notebooking adventure. This might also be the time that you are outdoors more, enjoying nature. And so maybe you try a nature journal. Maybe you try documenting what you see and where you go, and you collect leaves and things from nature or ticket stubs from the adventures that you take, and you get creative in your journal. You could also try junk journaling here. This is something I continually want to do, and I continually don't. Hopefully, I will this summer. And that is just collecting bits and bobs and things that you like, that look good to you, that you find, and just layer them in your notebook to have a literal layer of creativity. Or maybe for some of you, if you're itching to write fiction, if you're itching to put a story on paper, to get those creative juices flowing in a different way, maybe you try your hand at some short story creation or writing to some more creative prompts that get you thinking about other worlds that you could create in your mind and on the page. Now, after summer, we move into the fall. So think September, October, November. The days are shorter, they're colder, they're darker. The holidays are starting to come upon us, and so is the new year. And so I feel like this time is the perfect time for some reflective writing. That's where you go inward. That's where you ask yourself those questions. This kind of writing is more of a typical journal writing, right? Where you're just reflecting on how it's going and where you are and what you want and what your days are like, and you capture them. It also is a great time for a gratitude journal. Right? Coming in on those fall holiday seasons, Thanksgiving, many of us just take stock, right? It is a busy, busy time, but it's also a time to remember the blessings that we have in our lives. And I find that starting a gratitude practice in this particular season is not only helpful, but I find it's easier to sustain. And then one last thing you might try, because September and October are back to school and we're inside more, you might try a passion project writing. Think of a hobby that you love and dedicate a notebook to it. Write about it, plan it, add in layers of memorabilia from it, right? It's like taking a nature journal, but turning it into the journal that works for you. Maybe it's a journal all about your baking. Maybe it's a journal all about your yoga practice. Maybe it's a journal that tracks your running and your preparation for your upcoming races. Whatever your passion is, you could put it on paper and capture it for yourself and for anyone else who happens to eventually find that notebook. Now, moving into December, this is where the year is coming to an end. We are often full of holiday cheer and stress. And December is the perfect time for some commemorative writing. This is the kind of writing we do to archive our lives, to hang on to those memories we want to keep close. This is where you might scrapbook. This is where you might create photo notebooks. This is where you might get out your 5-year journal and recommit to it if it has fallen off the wagon. I know one of my favorite scrapbookers, and all I can remember at the moment is her first name, which is Allie. And I will remember it as soon as I press stop, I am sure. But she does a December daily. Right? And it is a community that comes together in the month of December to capture memories for every single day and have these beautiful holiday notebooks to keep forever. That's the kind of writing I think of when I think of that December time of year. So let's recap. Let's recap the kinds of writing we might do across a calendar year. January and February, let's get productive. Try morning pages, start today notebook, or any kind of writing that helps you manifest who you want to become. Let's think March, April, May. We are shifting seasons. It's the perfect time to put some reading and media in front of you to help you think deeper about where you want to go. This could be a reading notebook. This could be a typical journal or keeping those morning pages going, or maybe it's a quote notebook as well. June, July, and August bring us summer, adventure, hopefully some more creativity. Maybe you nature journal, maybe you junk journal, or maybe you try your hand at fiction writing or more creative writing prompts. September, October, November, this is where we can get reflective, right? We can try gratitude journaling. We can try passion projects. We can lean into that season and just reflect on where we are as we head into almost a new year. And then finally, in December, with celebrations and holidays and reflecting on the year that has just passed, that's where we can lean into commemorative writing. 5-year journals, scrapbooking, or whatever project like a December daily might feel good to you. So there you have it, a year-long calendar of writing. And I want to point something out very important. Your writing, the kinds of writing you do, the types of writing you engage in, and the time that you dedicate to it should change over time, right? It's easier to think of a reading life as staying the same and never falling short because you just pick up a book and you sit down and you read it. But for some reason, when it comes to writing, if we miss an entry in our notebook If we skipped a page, if we didn't write from that notebook in a while, we tend to freeze up and not return to it. And the thing is, as your life changes, your writing will change. Some seasons you will need to write a lot because you're writing to heal or get through something hard. Other seasons, you just need writing as a touch point, a gratitude check-in, a quick check-in in the morning to figure out what's on the docket for the day ahead. All of that up and down, all of that change, all of that shift, it is absolutely okay and is actually quite necessary. It's necessary for growth. So as you think about your writing life, just think about where you are. What kinds of writing just feel intuitively appealing to you, and figure out where you might begin. This calendar offers you a way to dip your toes into all sorts of writing all year long so that you can get those physical, cognitive, and mental benefits from putting the pencil or the pen to the page. I hope this helps you think about your writing life in a new way, in a way that ebbs and flows and shifts and changes. And I also hope it gives you some ideas to take back to your own writing life too. Now, I would love to know what you thought of this episode and what your writing life tends to look like when you look at it from a bird's eye, year-long view. What kinds of writing do you like to do in particular times of the year? What kinds of themes find their way onto the page based on the season that you are in? You can comment on the show notes for this episode at alitlife.com. You can find me on social media at AfinitoLit. And of course, I love those audio messages the best. Go ahead and press play on one of those in your favorite podcast platform. Thanks so much for your feedback on the initial reading episode that sparked this part 2. And I can't wait to see what you think about creating a writing calendar for yourself as well. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I'll see you inside the next episode. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. Learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing, if you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow, and it builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.